It's a story.
Here we go. We are live with our lovely purple background. And
how's it going?
Trying to get this thing to work. Yeah. Shavua Tov, everyone.
Shavua Tov.
To our tasting in Torah. This is the end of the Shabbat reading, the week of, well, if you're in the United States, it's Naso, and if you're in Israel, it's Beha'alotcha, which is really cool, the fact that we have the parashot sort of, you know, in Israel and in the diaspora, chasing each other, which is a really cool thing.
When do they catch up?
When do they catch up? There's a point in where you can merge two parashot, and in Israel they're going to merge the two, and we don't. Bamidbar,
we have Matot
Naso,
Masei,
Be'alotcha.
but here we have Matot Masei.
So it might be Matot Masei.
So we have that here also.
Yeah, no, this is going to be Masei, we're going to be Matot Masei.
Yeah.
So it's going to be that, yeah. Okay. Hey, Shavua Tov, everyone. You could join us just in time. We're just starting right now. And we've been talking about some current events.
Yes.
In other words, Iran and Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And looking at some Midrash, Yalkut Shimoni on Yeshayahu, made his ecclesiastic. That was like where we're going to start, and we're going to talk about some other stuff too.
So can I? Yeah, I'll just intro.
Please.
Yeah. So basically, for those of you guys who don't know, there has been a proxy war in Yemen. We're allowed to say that word here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yemen, not Australia, Yemen. So there's been a proxy war in Yemen between forces that are, they're called the Houthi rebels, that are forces that are supplied by their Shiites, by Iran, versus basically Yemenite tribes that are funded and supplied by Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia obviously is Sunni, Iran is Shiite, they don't like each other. Iran is, the fear was always that, Iran's pursuing nuclear weapons, so the fear was that once Iran gets nuclear weapons, then Saudi Arabia is going to want nuclear weapons. And once Saudi Arabia gets nuclear weapons, and then everybody else is going to want it. It's like me too.
It's totally mad. It's mutually assured destruction.
Except
it's the Cold War in the deserts of Arabia, so it's the hot war.
Except in this case, it's definitely assured.
Definitely.
You can be sure that they will push the button.
Mutually assured destruction over what? Shiite Sunnite.
Exactly.
Over do we apply Midrash to the Quran or not?
No, over.
And you thought we're crazy.
Their whole machloket is the uncle. What is it? The uncle, the cousin of who's the real next guy in succession after Muhammad. So the Shiites believe it's Ali. These guys. It's kind of like.
And you kind of think,
Misnagdim and
when you have like the Ashkenazic divide between Mitnagdim, Misnagdim, and Hasidim, the Gaon Vilna and like you think we have problems.
Exactly, we don't kill each other. I mean,
we don't kill each other.
These guys punch each other a couple of times, and for bring-ins, these guys
we just ostracize ourselves, each other. We just say nobody talk to you. We don't marry you.
We just each other on Facebook.
And you think that it's a big deal in Aleppo where Aleppo and Sham, Aleppo and Damascus. No, we don't talk to those guys.
Or Persian Jews, it's like Mashhadi and Tirani.
Yeah. Akiva is inviting us to the barbecue at K. I don't know if we're going to make it to their
Akiva
Soto.
Oh,
okay. He's saying like come to K.
Possibly. Oh, there's a barbecue there or something?
There's a BBQ there. I don't know. Maybe. Are they charging $50? Oh, it's at Aliyah. Sorry, not at K. Aliyah's down the block.
So
yeah, sure.
Maybe later.
Okay, fine. We might do that.
with this craziness. So basically, a few rabbis have been kind of in the past 2 years, and now that this conflict has been escalating, they've been talking about bringing up this midrash, kind of, I guess, allegorical, so to speak. I hate to use the word add-on to the.
It's called the homily.
Yeah, homily. And there's a midrash that talks about, it's Midrash Yalkut Shimoni. You can get the background of what Yalkut Shimoni, where this comes from, because there's Tanchuma, there's this, there's that.
Yalkut Shimoni is later. I don't remember if it's 11th, 10th, 11th century, but it's a compilation of earlier midrashim into a Yalkut, which means a Yalkut is just a compilation.
Yeah. So in this particular one, it's Yeshai, the source is Yeshaya 16. It says, Rabbi Yitzchak said in the time right before Mashiach, the forces of Paras, Persia, and Arabia, which today is Saudi Arabia, will basically provoke each other, and Arabia will take counsel with Edom.
It says they're Eros. It doesn't say Edom. So that's what I was asking. What's Eros? Eris. I don't know what Eris is. That's what it says in the Midrash. I looked it up. But again, I looked at the Safari version.
A lot of people mention Edom.
Well, first of all, look. The first thing we need to do.
Is that in there?
The first thing we need to do is look at Yeshayahu, Perek Samech, which is chapter 60, and see what it's talking about. Because Isaiah, Yeshayahu is very eschatological, meaning talking about end of days and stuff like that. So we need to look at that first of all.
So those of you guys don't know, Edom is there was
Edom is Esav.
It's Esav, and then it became Rome, and it became the whole Roman Empire.
So we look at Edom as Western civilization in general.
By extension, America.
Okay. So chapter 60 is the very famous Haftorah as well. Kumi ori kiva orech uchvod Hashem alayich zarach. It says, "Arise, shine, for your light has arrived, and the glory of God shines upon you." And on and on. And it's really talking about how the Jerusalem or Israel is going to rise and to be something magnificent. So he says, "Kehineh hachoshech yichaseh eretz va'arafel le'umim." There's going to be this darkness which is going to cover the land, and this fog which is going to cover nations. Ve'alayich yizrach Adonai uchvodo alayich yira'eh. But God will rise upon thee, and His glory will be seen upon you. Ve'alchu goyim le'orech u'melachim lenoga zalchech. Nations will walk by your light, and kings by the brilliance of your shine. Se'i saviv einayich u're'i kulam nikbetzu va'olach banayich merachok yavohu uvenotayich al tzad te'amana. Lift up your eyes and all round and see. They are all assembling and coming to you. Your sons will arrive from afar, and your daughters will be raised at their side. Now it's important to notice, this goes on and on and on. This is one of those prophecies where you look around you today, and it's happened.
Yeah.
Happened.
Not happening, it's already happened.
It's already happened. It's continuing.
Can you point to something?
What Israel has become in the world, in whether it's economically or technologically, in terms of its tourism, everybody's coming to Jerusalem. Everybody's coming to Israel. Everybody is the nations are coming to Israel to learn from Israel, to do business with Israel. They're all coming. The tourism, everything.
We're a little tilted.
I know we're always a little bit askew, but that's because I'm sitting up in a chair and you're sitting down there. I'm trying to figure this thing out.
It's like the movie Sideways with the wine. That's good. That's fine.
Yeah, but look at me.
It is.
See, like...
Look at you. Yes. Just look at you.
Pointing at... Yes. So anyway, I'm trying to blend in with the purple of the... Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's better. All right? So that's in general what's happening. So the point is that there's this eschatological vision of all kinds of things coming into Israel. So it says here, Shif'at gmalim techasech b'chrei Midyan ve'efa kulam yishva yavohu. He's saying, I'm just going to bring a few verses. An abundance of camels will envelop you. Camels, coats of Midian and Ephah, and all of them will come from Sheba. Gold and frankincense will they bear, and the praises of the Lord they will proclaim. The point is that they are bringing with them, people are bringing stuff into the land of Israel. There's commerce, there's business happening with the Arabian world. I mean, Bibi has been sitting with Saudi Arabia recently, and now we're doing business with them. So this is going on and on. It cetera. But just want to jump to the end of it. I'll give a few highlights. One of the verses here says, in verse 15, "Tachat heyotech azuva usnu'a ve'en over v'samtich ligaon olam mesos dor vador." Instead of your being forsaken and despised without wayfarers, I will make you into an eternal pride, a joy for generation after generation. I mean, look what's happening to Israel now, right? It's unbelievable. I'm going to skip a bit. לא יהיה לך עוד השמש לאור יומם, ולנוגה הירח לא יאיר לך, והיה לך אדוני לאור עולם, ואלוהיך לתפארתך. What was that? Verse 18? No longer will violence be... Oh, I'm skipping about. In place of the copper, I will bring gold. Okay, fine. The point is that it's Jerusalem, Israel becomes a highlight, becomes a marvel, and everybody comes to Israel, etc. On and on and on. And it finally says, the last part here is, Hakatoni ele elef v'atzeir legoyatzum, ani Adonai beita achishena. The smallest will increase 1,000-fold, and the youngest into a mighty nation. I am God, in its time I will hasten it. In other words, we're seeing... Hasten it, thank you. Israeli here. So we're basically seeing that happening. We're seeing that the smallest thing in Israel becomes a startup company. having tremendous impact. It was
Angry
out
Birds.
there. Angry Birds, yeah.
Angry Birds.
Angry Birds was one example we were just talking about. So we're looking at these prophetic times. Of course, wine is one of those things. So, Chaim. More karma.
The Neville, which is a separate.
Okay, so that's the background. That's one of those Yeshayahu versions. And so in that context, the Midrash is talking about one of the things that are happening, the developments that are happening, is Persia is fighting Arabia, and then the Western world is sort of involved, and everything ends up being destroyed by Iran, which, I mean, it says Persia, it does say that. And then in the end, Israel will be crying about that, moaning about that, and then God is saying, don't worry, this is all at the end of the day to raise you up. So whatever it's talking about devastating calamity, and the threat of Iran is a very real one.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that these things are being extrapolated from a prophecy which was said 2,700 years ago.
Wow.
Yep. So what do you say to that?
So that's a question. You know, should we take this midrash and should we look at it? You know, like I have people telling me you could really take many midrashim, you could take many prophecies, you could take many things in the Torah or the Tanakh, and you could apply it to any historical, kind of contemporary historical event, and it might be, so to speak, you know, you're just trying to fit it into your thing. People who are kind of scoffers and whatever it is. Not even necessarily scoffers, even people who are into are Torah observant Jews will say, well, how do you know this midrash is talking about? It's not talking about just Persia back then and Arabia back then. And this
Well,
and
it
that
does say in the midrash, in the days of Mashiach.
Yeah. So
it says at the time that Mashiach comes.
So a lot of generations, like I think you were mentioning this to me this week, that there was a lot of generations that thought that they were in the days of Mashiach. People in the Shabtai Tzvi thought in the days of Mashiach. People in that year, I don't know, during Rashi time. People during all these.
There were messianic movements,
Yeah.
but in retrospect, we can say that they were.
They thought it was it.
They thought it was it, but the world was infantile in comparison to today, in terms of its developments, in terms of its awareness. First, they didn't.
They didn't think
But
so.
it's like waking up from
Like
a dream.
to us, we're infantile.
When you're in a dream,
You know.
when you're in a dream,
Yeah.
the dream makes sense.
Yeah.
When you wake up, you realize that was so ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody talks to ice cream
But
and flies,
But
whatever it is.
Here's my little, you know, what is it? Nail in the nail in the operation here. No, in the. What's it? Not cognitive wheel. You know what I'm saying? Like people throw a wrench in the operation when you're saying.
Here's my little fact.
You know, we could. I was actually thinking about this today. We could sit 20 years from now, because technology is exponential. Or 10 years from now, and it could be a situation where we're talking about Elon Musk. He already creates the Neuralink. He already will create the boring, tunneling through the earth. And we'll say, wow, we were sitting 20 years ago, and we thought we were there. Forget about Mashiach. We thought we were already at the pinnacle of like everything that could be possibly developed, and we're just creating new iPhones. Really, there's no difference. We're just, getting people to spend on these obsolete phones. We thought we were already at the pinnacle, and then all of a sudden there was another. We took things to the next level, or we created the stuff for Star Trek. The transporting thing. How do it's like back then we were so primitive. Look how we are now.
And
it just keeps going and going and going and going.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
That can always happen.
And it's the same with spirituality.
But the world as a whole, at those times, up until, let's say, the last, not even 50 years, was a different world. Yeah. We are in the exponential growth. Yeah. The tip of the iceberg.
Like this.
Right. The world has become a lot smaller. The global village, right? Yeah. The world has become a lot smaller. The concepts of universality are everywhere. I mean, it's so... You can talk in universal terms. You can talk about nations, and you can talk about planetary developments. Yeah. That is messianic proportion.
Yeah, people want to go to Mars.
That did not exist in all of these previous times. They were just hopeful.
You got the guy who made Amazon, now he wants to go to Mars. Now this guy
Yes,
wants to go to
yes,
Mars.
I
Everybody
know,
wants to go to Mars.
I know.
Pluto, this.
Jeff Bezos,
Yeah.
I saw it called Project Blue or something.
Yeah, they're all doing. There's like 3 guys doing this.
Right.
Branson,
Right.
Musk, him.
But the point is that humanity has entered a new era.
Epoch.
Even though it seems to still be pretty dumb, in many ways,
Because we
self-destructing.
We don't really understand what we have on our hands. I think that's the problem.
Right.
Even with these cell phones, we're like the monkey with the monolith. Remember in Space Odyssey?
Yes.
Like dancing. We're literally dancing around our monoliths.
The monkey with the iPad.
Yeah, we're like sitting where you don't even know what we're doing. Half
That's
the time.
true. We
That's
don't.
nonsense.
It is true, but Torah does give you context for what we're doing, and that is unfortunately missed by people who don't believe deeply that Torah is talking about this, and so they won't even suspect. Right? Torah is talking about these things and giving them context, and therefore giving you the ability to look at these processes from the outside and say, "Look what's happening." But if you don't have that, then you're caught up in it, and when you're caught up in it, you don't know what's going on. Looking at it from a Torah perspective, we don't know necessarily what is happening now, but we can be very clear that this is an important and essential and inevitable development, which is a stepping stone towards Mashiach. In other words, towards the conclusion of the saga of human development and a universal recognition of the unity of existence, which is what Mashiach is, which is what Shema Yisrael is. That's our, think of Stardate.
Yeah.
Right?
Stargate.
No, Stardate.
Oh, Stardate.
When you're in Star Trek, you enter the captain's log, Stardate.
No.
Right? What is Shema Yisrael if not a mission statement that we are still on course? It's X star date, whatever.
Well, it's
the
a
year
log
is.
in, log out.
Right, that's exactly what Shema Yisrael is. You log in when you wake up, and you log out either when you go to sleep or when you die. Yeah, it's you log in, you log out. I mean, my rabbi says this, but there's other people who come up with this. It makes sense. So it's this log in, log out thing. So that's what we're talking about.
So speaking of Mashiach, like what we were talking about today on the way back from Mincha about Elon Musk. You know, he's creating this thing because you were mentioning.
He's creating the
Neuralink.
resurrection of the dead.
Well, Neuralink, which is TSMAC, where you're trying to download people's consciousness.
People's consciousness to be translatable and survive their physical body.
Yeah, and he doesn't even know how he's going to do it and what he's doing. He's still, whatever, taking care of it, working on it.
I mean, I think it was done. What's that movie? Happy? What was that? The robot? Happy.
Oh.
Happy.
No.
I am happy. The robot.
Oh, but it's not happy. It's I know what you're talking about. I didn't see the movie.
Chappie.
The name of the movie.
Chappie.
Maybe the character, but the movie was something called.
I think it's Chappie.
Different name, whatever.
It's Chappie.
So, and then he's making this thing. He has a thing called the Boring Company, where he's literally tunneling through the earth. And what do we know about the whole Mashiach thing? Is that people are going to be able to go to Israel in tunnels, like tunnel through the earth, and then like the dead will tunnel through the earth. And like,
that's kind of cool. You're saying Elon Musk is fulfilling two in one.
He doesn't know what that is.
He's going to be taking the Neuralink and sending people.
It's crazy.
I mean, how do you find that people already died?
Dude, I don't
know.
It's.
I don't know.
The whole thing.
They'll be living in cyberspace.
It really blew my mind when we thought about it. I was like,
maybe Tchiat HaMetim will be a cyberspace kind of thing.
It could be. You're saying like they're coming.
I don't know.
The internet, or like,
no, I'm saying human. There's a great short story that my student referred me to once. It's brilliant, by Isaac Asimov. Mm-hmm. It's called The Question. Mm-hmm. Okay? Yeah. I don't want to ruin it for you or for those of you watching. It's a short story. It's really worthwhile. Remember, this is written decades ago before the concept of the internet was there. Mm-hmm. Isaac Asimov basically foresaw the concept of Siri or...
he was a genius.
He's brilliant, right?
I think he was like an Orthodox.
I don't know. My grandmother corresponded with him. I have a letter.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He was Jewish, but he sort of became cynical at the end of his life. I mean, it's inevitable, you know, when you talk... Anyway, like this Bible thing. Anyway, so Isaac Asimov had this story where this concept of a digital virtual interface which you can ask questions to, which is kind of like Siri or Alexa or Google.
Or
HAL. Or Cortana.
Or HAL in the movie 2001 Space Odyssey.
Fine, HAL.
Which is scary, that's why we have these
Alexas. I cannot do that.
I went to our friend's house in Livingston.
But HAL is just running
and she has Alexa, and I had never heard Alexa, you know.
Dude, speaker for the dead. Dude, Ender's Game. Jane.
Okay.
Speaker for the dead.
Okay.
That's the whole Ender's Game. It's like that consciousness which communicated with him and gave him those dreams.
this thing is going to evolve. You realize that?
Yes,
It's
exactly.
Scary. It's scary.
That's exactly what the question is. So in this
AI.
science fiction story called The Question by Isaac Asimov, there is this question. Somebody basically asked a question which talking about how do you reverse entropy.
Yeah.
Okay? And so the system responds there is not enough information to answer the question, like doesn't compute. And it keeps on going how in the next generation some human asked the question, but at this point human beings are like interstellar travelers. And at a certain point human beings are no longer human beings, they're like constellations in the whatever sphere. And this Google ask question, this internet thing, is already in hyperspace, interlinked in some kind of way, gathering all the information, and it still cannot answer. You want me to just tell you what happens at the end?
Before you tell me what happens at the end, I was watching George Carlin, obviously of blessed memory, comedian, and he talking, whatever, he was like an atheist, he was talking about, he's like, there's no, I don't know what it is, it's maybe it's not God, maybe it's just we're on this ball of energy. He's not talking about Earth, he's talking about the universe. And he's like, and it's just going whoa, 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 and then we just disappear, and that's that.
Well,
whoa! Yeah, I gotta post a clip. It's really funny. He's like,
sounds
whoa,
funny.
Whoa, whoa. He's like, what he says about God? He goes, God and Joe Pesci have the same success rate, 50-50. You have a noisy neighbor upstairs? You pray to God, maybe he'll help you, maybe he won't. Joe Pesci, take a baseball bat. Come, so maybe he'll help you, maybe he won't. God and Joe Pesci, 50-50.
And I always said of Joe Pesci as Home Alone. And he wasn't so successful.
Keep the change, you filthy animal. Exactly.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
You gotta see Carlin. I don't agree with the most stuff he does, but it's really funny the way he puts it.
Well, he's a very big atheist.
Yeah, he was big.
But anyway,
Well,
listen. So at a certain point in the story, humanity dies. Okay, dies out. The point I was really making here is that humanity evolved into this, constellational.
Well, we're stardust, really.
Whatever, yeah. And at the end, after everything is run down, the universe has run its course, entropy has basically used up all the usable energy, and it's all over. And it's at that point that this consciousness has the answer, and it says, "Let there be light." Isn't that great?
To quote our friend who just went to Florida,
Lord now.
Okay? You know what I'm saying? Homage to him. He should be successful.
Yes, he should. In the line of eternal sunshine.
Oh my God, of the spotless minds.
I didn't see that coming.
Our friend just moved to Florida. where everybody's really fast if you're a snail. No offense to people in Florida watching this.
I did not think of that.
Speed it up a little bit. Yeah.
Well, so I guess that was tasting in Torah for the week. That's an interesting thought about where things are going.
Yeah.
And looking at the world and looking at these prophecies and just seeing.
Here's my last question.
What's going on?
How do we mitigate? How do we get to the, so to speak, end game here without violence? Because it seems like we keep. It's like you're heading down. You're looking at what's happening with Israel, Hamas, Iran. Why do we need to have this violent, like basically almost cave troglodytean showdown with these people who can't? I'm saying like these people just can't get their stuff together. We were joking with our roommate, who, whatever he put a gzera or whatever against saying not a gzera like a takana. You can't say the word Yemen. But we joke with him. Listen, man, all the world's conflict right now is leading to one place, Yemen. So how do we avoid? These people can get their stuff together. How do we avoid all this and just go right to the chase of like?
Well, the one thing we know is the Rambam, Maimonides, at the very end of his magnum opus, the Yad HaChazakah, in the Laws of Kings and Their Wars, he has the 11th chapter which talks about the Messianic days, and he says, you know what? Let's pull it out.
Well, I heard we can do tshuva. We can.
No. Better than that. Let's pull it out, shall we? Let's get there. Here we are. Chapter 7, chapter 12. I want to point out chapter 11. Okay. That's the Bar Kochva stuff. looking for. It's the beginning of chapter 12, the very end. He says like this. אל יעלה על דעתך שבימות המשיח יבטל דבר ממנהגו של עולם, או יהיה שם חידוש במעשה בראשית. Don't imagine to yourself that in the Messianic days, the way the world runs is going to change, or suddenly nature is going to change. Rather, everything's going to be as it was. And that is as it says in Yeshayahu 11, verse 6, V'gar ze'evim keves, v'namerim gidir batz, that the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the tiger, or the leopard, with the gazelle, they will hang around. So, that's all mashal v'chida, it's all allegory. Inyan hadavar, this is the point. Shiyu Yisrael yoshvin levetach im rish'ei omot ha'olam ha'meshulim k'ze'ev v'chenamel. That basically, the Israelites, Israel, will be able to settle with all of the other nations who are compared to the wolf or the leopard, as it says, etc., etc., etc. Okay? Now, all of the things, I'm just paraphrasing and skipping around. All those things which are said about the allegories, about the Messianic days, are simply allegories. And at the Messianic period itself, it will be known to all what of these things was allegory and what were they referring to. Okay? Said that Amru Chachamim, the scholars said, Ein ben ha'olam hazeh limot HaMashiach ele she'abud malchuyot levad. The only difference between this world where we are now and the Messianic days is the subjugation of the other nations. In other words, trying to say that we will have the freedom to do as we wish without being subjugated by other nations. Like we have our independence. From the simple reading of the prophetic words, it would appear that at the beginning of the Messianic days there will be the war of Gog and Magog, which is mistranslated in the English Christian Bible as Armageddon. Yeah. Right? It's a mistranslation. ושקודם מלחמת גוג ומגוג יעמוד נביא לישראל ליישר ישראל ולהכין ליבם. So the beginning of this, before this war, there will be a prophet to the people of Israel who will set us on a straight course and prepare our hearts. As it says, הנה אנוכי שולח לכם את אליהו הנביא. I'm sending to you Elijah, the prophet, etc., etc. ואינו בא לא לטהר הטמא ולא לטמא הטהור, לא לפסול אנשים שהם בחזקת כשרות ולא להכשיר מי שהוחזקו בפסולים, אלא לשום שלום בעולם, שנאמר והשיב לב אבות על בנים ולב בנים על אבותם. This prophet is coming in order to purify that which is impure, or to make that which is pure impure, etc., not to disqualify people who are considered to be qualified or kosher, etc., 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 only to promote peace in the world. As it says, he will return the hearts of the fathers on their sons, etc., etc. Okay? Now, he goes on and on and on to talk about these details, but he says, Kol elu advarim v'chayotze b'hem, all of these details and their related details, lo yeda adam he'achi hiyu ad shehiyu, nobody knows what will be until it will be. V'shedvarim stumim hem etzel hanevim, these things are unclear, are sealed in the words of the prophets. They're undeciphered, right? They're enigmas. Gam hachachamim en lahem kabbalah b'dvarim elu. There is no oral tradition that is passed down, or a Mesorai, Kabbalah, about what these things are going to be. In other words, the Midrash that you are reading is not something that's handed down, rather, Ela, lefi hechra hapsukim, it's by balancing and measuring out what these verses mean. Lefichach, yesh lehem machlokot b'dvarim elu. Therefore, there are disagreements as to what they mean. Ve'al kol panim, en sidur avayat dvarim elu ve'lo diktukehem ikar badat. It is not a religious principle or an essential idea to figure out these details. And therefore he says, Le'olam lo yitasek adam b'divrei hagadot, do not be over-involved in these midrashic homilies and so on, like the one that we just referred to. V'lo ya'arich b'divrei midrashot ha'amurim b'ninim ha'kotze b'hem. Don't spend too much time in these midrashim and these homilies and their related subjects. V'lo yasimam ikar, do not make them into a main issue. She'enan mevi'in lo lidei ahava v'lo lidei yir'ah. They don't bring you to love God, they don't bring you to fear God. V'chen lo yechashev ha'kitzim, and do not try to calculate the end of days. Amru chachamim tapuach da'atan shel mechashvei kitzim. The rabbis would say, may all the people who are calculating the end of days drop dead. Right? Ela yechakeh v'ya'amin b'chlal hadavar k'mo shebe'anu. Rather, you should sit down and wait and just, the word says ya'amin, meaning like form yourself in anticipation of this thing, as we explained.
Prepared, at least.
Yeah. It's just to be prepared. In other
That
words,
comes in a nanosecond.
in other words, simply tune yourself to that expectation of things working themselves out, but don't worry yourself too much about the details about how it's going to. Like, is Iran going to destroy the world? Let's hope not. It doesn't have to happen because the Midrash says they probably.
It doesn't have to happen.
The Midrash says it will.
No, it doesn't have to happen.
Exactly.
Because
the point of Mashiach is to bring peace, right?
Meaning we have a choice. I mean, we obviously, but what I keep hearing is that we, in order to mitigate that, we have to do tshuva, like the nation.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is that the Zohar, I think in Kitavo, talks about Rabbi Chia, right? There's a whole question where the Zohar says, here, let me bring it, the verse. If I would have my computer, I'd pull it up. The Kitavo, which has all these rebukes and curses, and it's a pretty difficult parsha to read. Kitavo.
Because it sounds like your friendly neighborhood Sephardi rabbi? Something like that?
Yes, exactly.
Not nice kid of little nice sweet kid of things. It sounds like the truth in your face.
I'm looking for it. I mean, I'm looking at all of these details.
Say the truth right to your face.
I'm looking for it. I mean, it's here. Okay, Vaya. I'm looking for it. Let me see if I can find it. Vaya ki yavo alecha. I'm almost there. I'm right looking at it. It's right around here.
I'm with you, man.
I'm looking for it. It's basically, I can't find it right now. It's here somewhere.
Something
So he says,
no,
he's saying, and it shall be that when all of these, the horrible atrocities, will come upon you, and then you will it is then that you will come and adhere to God's word. In other words, first of all these terrible things have to happen, and then...
well, that's usually what else.
Okay. So, I mean, I can't find it right now, but the Zohar, I'm paraphrasing, the Zohar basically says as follows. Rabbi Chia said, this comes to teach you that we will not do teshuvah, we will not correct ourselves until all of these horrible things will come to pass.
Pretty much.
And everybody got up and started screaming at him, saying, what do you mean? We can do teshuvah, la la la. And he says, yeah, we could, but the verse is saying that we won't.
Yeah, exactly.
and
it's correct.
And the way my rabbi explains this is that the reason you won't is because you won't even have the vocabulary to address the issues.
Yeah.
To know what are the issues. Yeah. We're finally at a point where where humanity is developed enough to realize that there is such a thing as an underlying issue which hasn't been addressed. So people are constantly saying, just do tshuva. Yeah. What does that even mean? We've been trying it for 2,000 years. Has it worked?
There are people who are doing mitzvahs without, for example, working on their midot. There are people who are working on the character traits without doing mitzvahs.
But then
there are people who think, I just want to be a good person.
But then there have been people who have managed to reach levels of personal development which we could only dream of.
Yeah, no, meaning without mitzvahs.
The point is that we have not addressed the underlying issues.
Of course we haven't.
So just being righteous, just doing mitzvahs, just this, it isn't the issue.
I know.
What is the underlying issue?
We're doing kiruv, it's like an empty shell. It's just like this, window, like you said. There's a rabbi who doesn't talk to you or whatever because you're not a target anymore.
Because he has nothing to do. I'm already religious.
Yeah, you're religious. So what is
Well, the point is, here's why. We have this thing on Tisha B'Av. We talk about Lamentations, Kinat, lamentation. The source of Lamentations is King Isaiah, King Josiah. Sorry. I can never get it right. Yoshiyahu ben Ammon. Ammon is the grandson of Hezekiah. Okay, after Hezekiah died, Menashe reigned for 55 years. Ammon reigned for 2. Ammon was murdered. And then the people murdered the people who murdered him. and placed his son Yoshiyahu, and he was king for about 31 years.
Is that to do with? I heard something about this. To do with Shomron? Something?
No. Yoshiyahu was at the point where the Assyrian Empire was fading, and what Professor Oded Lifshitz of Tel Aviv University calls that period of time a power vacuum.
He is the boss of my friend in Tel Aviv.
He's my father's supervisor, mentor.
He's also probably okay. I should ask if your father knows my friend in Tel Aviv.
Well, you should. My father just got his master. Graduated with his mastered. What's it called? Ad Lorem? What's the word? With honors.
Whatever. Yeah. Something like that. Sum cum laude. Whatever.
Sum cum laude. Yeah. Sum cum laude. Yeah.
Magna cum laude.
With honors. I graduated my bachelor's with honors, but this is with so anyway. He calls it a power vacuum, and at that time he was able to shake off the yoke of Assyria. He's not paying tribute to anyone, and so he's able to build up the country, and he had the largest kiruv movement ever. He was able to make sure that everybody from north to south of Israel was an expert in the most arcane laws.
Is it because he had money, or is it because he had other...
He had the ability, because he was free of the yoke of Assyria, and he was a righteous king, and he was very, very inspired from a young age, and he was able to get everybody involved, and he had a police force to make sure that everybody's studying, etc. And the joke was on him, because when the inspectors would come to people's house, we have this tradition, the inspectors would come to people's houses to make sure that they have no idolatry. They would open the door, and there would be a nook behind the door with the idolatry, but because you're opening the door, you wouldn't see it. The inspectors would leave, and then they would close the door, and it would still be there. So he says, "Nitfas ba'avon leitzanei ado." It's the cynics of the generation which really were his downfall. But his downfall was when we went against the prophet Jeremiah. Yirmiyahu said to him, "Do not get involved in foreign affairs." And Pharaoh Necho II, went to campaign to join Assyria against the Babylonians and the Medes in the Battle of Carchemish in 605 BCE, 2,600 years ago. He blocked off Paro Necho and Megiddo, which, if you're in Israel, that makes a lot of sense, because Megiddo is a bottleneck area as opposed to anywhere else, so that's, of course, where you're going to block him, right? And he gets killed. He was, you cannot outdo Yoshiyahu. What he did in terms of kiruv, in terms of bringing people close and teaching Torah. So what hope?
Cannot even hold
what hope do we have?
So what are we doing? Yeah.
And after he died, Yoshiyahu vayokonen Yirmiyahu el Yoshiyahu. He eulogized him, and that became Alohi Ktuva al Sefer HaKinot. That is written on the Book of Lamentations. Lamentations is a reason, and the Book of Lamentations. Eicha was written.
Us, how will we ever have this again?
No, exactly.
Yeah.
But that comes to tell you that it's not about these external things. It's not. There are underlying issues which need to work themselves out.
Can I say a scary thing? Well, it's not scary. It's just Moti Berger, as you know.
My father is in charge.
Or as I like to call him, Mr. Slappy.
My father is responsible for him being at H,
yes.
Just so you know.
So Moti Berger, I asked him once, what's going on with this Kiruv thing? Now, he's been in Kiruv, obviously how many millennia.
He's my neighbor.
So he says, can I ask you a question? How many people left Mitzrayim? Percentage. 20%. He's like, you're not going to get everybody. Get your friends, get your parents, get your relatives. Do what you can. You're not going to get everybody. We're spending all this money. Doesn't matter. 20%, maybe a little more, maybe a little, whatever. That was it. I used to be a Zionist, and I'm not anymore.
Well, I gotta tell you, some of the closing words. And I'm here. I'm holding the book of Malachi, the closing words of the Navi, of the books of prophets. Say what is going to be at the end of days. He says, "Az nidberu ish yirei Adonai ish re'eu vayaksheva Adonai vayishma vayikatev sefer zikaron lefanav lirei Adonai ulechoshvei shemo." So I'm going to read the English. Then those who fear God spoke to one another, and God listened and heard, and a book of remembrance was written before him for those who fear God and for those who give thought to his name. And the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, even two people who are sitting and talking, God is listening, right? And the point here is being made that at the end of days, this is really all you have left. There's no more institutions. There's no more organizations. There's no more mass movements. You simply have one person who sees what's going on, talking to another person who can relate to that. That's all you have. That's what we're doing right now, man. That's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, we're filming the thing.
Hopefully, God listening doesn't mean that it's just on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? He says, but
There's a bunch of S-words.
yeah, as far as this is it. This is where it says, this is it.
Yeah.
These are the closing words of Navi, saying at the end of days, all you're going to have left is one person talking to another. And that's it. That's all you have left.
Yeah.
No institutions, no movements.
Sounds like a sad Disney movie.
It's so sad that, in fact, the last verse isn't even read. When this is read in the Haftorah and Shul, they repeat the previous verse because it's such a devastating verse. Behold, I'm sending upon you Elijah the prophet, and he will restore the hearts of the sons and their fathers, and the fathers and their sons. And the last verse says, "Lest I come and smite and destroy the land." So you say, well, let's just reread after that the previous one about Elijah the prophet, because it's a very bad taste to end that way. You have many examples like that. The end of Isaiah, Yeshayahu, which we read in Rosh Chodesh, the end of Lamentations. No, that we just read the next, right?
I feel like doing a Captain Jean-Luc Picard right now from Star Trek.
And on that note,
doing Shema. Speaking of Shema, we're checking out.
Exactly, we are checking out. Thank you all for watching. Shavua Tov, and happy holidays.
Happy summer.
There we go.